Salutations Rangers, General Bradley 101 back again with some more lore. And today we're talking about something rather interesting. It is a very unique example of basically kind of good shit happening in 40k. It's completely unheard of. And it's one of those rare things where in the Grim Darkness of the far future, there isn't just war, it's actually kind of wholesome, but you know, a lot of people die in the end, but hey, it's still 40k after all. And that is a Black Templar and an Eldar Wraith Guard forming some type of mutual respect or friendship. It's saying that sounds wrong, and it sounds like I'm making up bullshit. And you guys will know, like, when I make the thumbnail, I'll say, you know, die well, friend, and all that. He literally says die well in the thing, like you guys will find out later, but it's wild. It's so wild. When I learnt about this shook me. In fact, this isn't the first time I've actually covered this. I did a short about a year ago talking about this. And in that thing, I said a guardsman talks to an Eldar Wraith, because there were guardsmen present at the council when the people were speaking. It's only rereading it now that I realize, oh no wait, hold on. Hold the fuck on. That's a Black Templar saying that. What the fuck? Needless to say, I was shooketh. So I decided, right, I need to redo this, I need to unfuck this, I need to do this story some justice. So ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be doing that today, covering the story of the book Gods of Mars, the final in a trilogy detailing the exploits of an Arch Mechanicus explorator fleet trying to find out the secrets of Magos Telok. But without any further ado, ladies and gents, let's get crack-a-lackin' on to this here video. Alright, so I'm gonna breeze through the super quick introduction very quickly because I just want to get to the good stuff, so forgive me if this is a little sparse, but I'm hella excited to talk about this. The ultra super amazing TLDR is as follows. An Adeptus Mechanicus explorator fleet led by Archmagos Kotov and his flagship, the vessel known as Speranza, continues its voyage looking for the quote-unquote breath of the gods. Basically, there's this Archmagos known as Magos Telok, and he is said to have left behind a bunch of ancient technologies, old nonsense, hidden treasure troves, and this is the shit that the Admech live for. And we've already spent like 2 books looking for that shit, and lo and behold, this is it. And they want to find the resting place of Archmagos Telok, which apparently is on the world of Exilio. But it's not exactly what they were expecting. But see, they had discovered the ancient device known as the Breath of Gods, the shit that they were looking for. And it turns out that Telok is actually alive! Not only that, but he managed to transmorph himself and the entire world into his own ideal OC nonsense. And here we get the whole revelation of the trilogy. Telok has been doing a bunch of bullshit. So much so that he's actually begun to change the actual makeup of the Halo stars. There's a bunch of strange astronomical nonsense that's going on, and it's him, he's doing this. He also has created some type of weird Xenos technology constructs, including these odd crystalline warriors and these pseudo-robotic monsters that are kind of like Necrons, like Timo brand Necrons. Not to mention, he's made himself into a massive conglomeration of like mechanical crystal nonsense, including nanomachines and organic technologies, and he's like the size of a dreadnought. Basically, he's gone full-on heretic bullshit. And this has gone from an exploration into trying to find the lost treasures of a servant of the machine god, into oh my god, there's a heretic among us, we need to kill him. Dun 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 dun. But now where do the Black Templars and the Eldar come into play when we get to this little story over here? It turns out that in the same area, a strike cruiser belonging to the Black Templars as well as a vessel belonging to the Eldar come into contact with one another, and basically it results in a bunch of death and murder. However, both their ships become inoperable, thus they have to translate onto a different ship. And lo and behold, do they find this Arch Mechanicus void vessel. And they begin fighting and fighting on here. However, the Mechanicus are not having any of it. The guardsmen and the Mechanicus aboard manage to convince the two of them to be like, hey, we need to talk. And lo and behold, do they get to talking. But rather than hear me waffle on about it, let's take it straight from the horse's mouth. Take it from Warhammer 40k, Gods of Mars. With the Farseer on her knees, helmet hung low, with his visor pressed to the deck, the Eldar warriors were acting on their own authority. Yana, Tana, Yale, Baraka, Isur, and Vada formed a killing ring as the silentless lethal Xenos killers moved to encircle them. Then Anders and his Cadians had their lasguns tight to their shoulders, each man tracking an alien warrior. The Eldar had their guns and blades at the ready. All it would take was a single spark to turn this standoff into a bloodbath.
Suffer not the alien to live,
stuttered Issa through gritted teeth. Though his nervous system had been ruined in the fires of an electrostatic charger and the Valet manifold station, the tip of his sword was unwavering. Varda had his black blade at his shoulder, tensed and ready to strike.
"Brother Issa, stop talking!"
cried Rabute, seeing the Eldar tense at his words in expectation of a killing order.
"Lower your blades, or you all die,"
promised the warrior in armor of gold, jade, and ivory.
Rabute knew an Exarch when he saw one, and was well aware that she could make good on her threat.
Her movements reminded him of the camouflage predators of Espandor's forests. Feline hunters whose prey never even knew they were a target, until it was too late. Yell and Branca had their weapons tracking the woman, but Rabute doubted even their aim was good enough to hit her. Towering over the Eldar was the Wraith Lord, its glossy armor blackened and corroded by Telok's fire. To fight against such a monster would be suicide, but that didn't seem to matter to the Black Templars. Rabute put himself between the Space Marines and the Eldar, his arms held out before them. He couldn't help remembering what had happened to Archmagos Kotov when he had tried a similar attack to prevent violence.
"No one do anything stupid here," he said.
"We just escaped certain death, so let's not do Telok's work for him."
"These Xenos killed Gul-galad," said Braka. "The blood of Sikhism demands vengeance."
"One Monkai life?" demanded the Exarch, an enormous chain saber held up before her. "By your actions are scores of my kin dead. For that alone I should slay you 1,000 times over."
"Then why haven't you?" demanded Tana.
Rabute sighed. "Do you want her to kill you?" He turned to the Exarch and dug deep for his recall of the Eldar language.
"Greetings, Exarch. I am Rabute Sraffa of Ultramar, rogue trader and loyal servant of the Emperor. We thank you for your aid, and offer no violence to you or your kin."
The Exarch couldn't hide his surprise at Rabute's use of her language, and that he hoped his pronunciation wasn't so poor as to get them all killed by unwittingly insulting her family lineage. "You speak our language," said the Exarch. "Alotaki inflections with a crude human tongue. I should kill you for befouling it."
"But you won't,"
said Rabute. "What makes you so sure?"
Rabute pointed towards Bilyana. "Because she told you to save us, didn't she? She's had a vision of some sort. She's seen that if we die here, something very bad is going to happen. Right?"
The Exarch lowered her blade, but her posture did not relax one iota. Rabute knew that she could go from stationary to murdering him in a heartbeat. But he'd guessed right. "Listen," he said, switching back to Low Gothic and addressing both the Eldar and Black Templars. "The bad blood between us is over, finished, done with. It has to be, or we're all going to die here. The fact of the matter is that we're trapped on this planet with a madman who wants to kill us and steal our way home. Now, do any of us want to die? I'm going to go ahead and assume that the answer is no, and suggest we put aside our differences and work together while we have a common enemy."
"Fight alongside Xenos?"
demanded Isor. "It's happened before," said Rabute. "I've seen Ultramarines make war with Eldar allies,
I just hope that you can understand that cooperation offers us the best chance of survival.
You are correct, Rabute Skurov of Ultramar, said Liliana,
rising smoothly to her feet and removing her helmet. The face Rabute had last seen aboard the Speranza was paler than he remembered. The Farseer's elliptical eyes dulled and sunk deeper into her oval face. Her scarlet hair was still beaded with crystals and gemstones. But the ice-white streaks now reached back from her temples. She came towards him with such grace that it was as though she moved over ice.
I have seen dark things in the skein, said Biliana. Things this Magos Telok's lunacy will unleash upon the galaxy unless we can drag the future from its current path. So make no mistake, we do not fight with you. We fight to stop Telok from ever leaving this world.
Then our purposes align, said Archmagos Kotov. Rabute turned to see the mass of the Speranza, standing with Palkavev and his two Skitari. Black fluid oozed from his seals applied to his shoulders. But at least he was upright.
For now,
said Biliana. I didn't know, said Kotov. How could I possibly have known that this madness had claimed Telko?
Biliana's fist clenched, and she all but spat her words in Kotov's face. Because nothing in your species' behavior would ever suggest any other possibility, she snapped. You ask me, how could you have known? I say, how could you have not expected anything different?
Right, so a lot of things happen in there, but let me break it down for you. Essentially, after getting aboard the Mechanicus ship, Telok did his bullshit, and they all had to jump planetside. It turns out that the only vessel that survived was the Arch Mechanicus void ship, and that void ship was wanting to be grabbed by Telok, who needed a way off planet. Thus, we get everyone here together, and after going through and having a little chat, they realize, yeah, all this bullshit happening is Telok's fault. The Black Templars and the Eldar being here, caused by Telok, so too the Arch Mechanicus. Basically, we got this crazy ass goddamn Archmagos who is now trying to leave them high and dry and take their shit and fuck off and do more bullshit. Now, this doesn't change the fact that the Eldar and the Black Templars fucking hate each other, but it does help them come to a little bit of a compromise. Well, the Eldar anyway, the Black Templars are basically held at gunpoint at this point. I say gunpoint, their armor has a system lock shock, which means, yeah, they can't really like fight until it gets recovered, and it's only going to get recovered when they stop being bullshit, which for the Black Templars is quite difficult, not gonna lie. Not impossible, as we will see coming soon, but still rather difficult. Basically after this though, all of them gather together and they need to have a council of war to decide, right, what the hell are we going to do? How are we going to tackle this situation? And it's here, ladies and gentlemen, that we get the very famous interaction between a Black Templar of all things and an Eldar Wraith. I am just so shocked, so confused, and so surprised. Because of all the things, ladies and gentlemen, I had on my bingo card, Black Templar actively talking to an Eldar was not one of them. And don't get me wrong, they're not being super friendly, but this for a Black Templar is mad. But instead of me waffling on and on about it, here is straight from the horse's mouth, taken again from Warhammer, Gods of Mars. As councils of war went, Tana had seldom seen stranger. They gathered around a hexagonal control hub, from which they had removed 4 servitors that appeared to have expired at their stations. Dust lay thick and undisturbed across their corpses and the control hub's numerous blank cathode ray panels. He and Varda stood to one side of the hub, with Isur, Braka, and Yale a step behind. Rabute Skurov and Van Anders sat on its integral bench seats, taking the opportunity to rest. The Cadian had taken a burn to the arm from a crystallith weapon, but bore his wound without complaint. Magos Baklava worked at an open panel on the hub, and Archmagos Kotov knelt at its base, rewiring the guts of its machinery with a trio of chain-light mechadendrites that unfurled from his back. Tied-off cables and spot-weld seams closed off his ruined shoulders, where the Skitari had worked on his augmentic frame. Opposite the Imperials stood the Eldar witch, who Skurov told him was called Beliana. Next to her was a warrior named Arigana Icefang. Tana had only seen her fight for a few fractions of a second, but that had been enough to convince him that when the time came to kill her, as surely it must, she would be a formidable foe. The giant warrior construct was also part of the council. "Is it a robot?" Varda asked Beliana, after the Farseer identified it as Uldenish Ghostwalker. "No," it said. "I am not, and I can speak for myself." "Then is it a suit of armor?" asked Tana. "Is there a warrior within, like a knight?" "I do not wear this armor," said Ghostwalker. "I am a part of it, and it is part of me." "Like a dreadnought," said Tana. "I am not like your dreadnoughts," said Ghostwalker, leaning in with his oval skull gleaming with reflected lightning. "You're not?" "No, I died many centuries ago." Varda made the sign of the Aquila, but said no more, shooting Tana a glare of disapproval. Before Tana could denounce vile alien necromancy, the control hub sparked with life, and a bass hum built from each of its 6 panels. 2 immediately blew out with a shower of sparks and flame. Magos Baklava extinguished them with a gaseous spray from her mechadendrites. The hub gradually returned to functionality. Ancient circuits coaxed to life by Pekov's ministrations and Kotov's binary incantations. Gem-like indicator buttons flickered, and the scenes cracked with what to Tana looked like meaningless static. So here it is, ladies and gentlemen. The one scene that I did all those years ago and basically got wrong, sorry about that. But I love this scene. It's so fun because these are Black Templars. These are the biggest bad bullshit racism of the racism. These are the John racist of the racism. This is the worst faction in 40k when it comes to belligerency, you could argue. Maybe the sisters, but these guys are definitely up there. These are not nice people. These are not calm people. These are not people known for their love of literature or understanding or discovery. These are people known for yelling at the top of their lungs hateful incantations and killing people with their bare hands. That is what these guys are known for. That is what these guys do. They are violent, violent, violent. Pure violence, pure and simple. Hatred, wrath, death incarnate. You say it, whatever the hell it is. These guys, not good people. Yet, here we have a rare instance of an Eldar entity that the Black Templars don't really know much about. They may know how to kill it, but they know jack shit and less. And here we see that despite all of it, the curious nature of mankind is still brought to play. Overwhelmed by the sheer curiosity of it, the Black Templar straight up asks, "What is this?" Despite everything being ingratiated in them, despite every single element probably screaming at him to kill it, and he even acknowledges that yeah, eventually we'll have to kill them. Despite it all, despite every single thing about it, despite anything, the human curiosity comes in and he wants to know, is this thing like a dreadnought? He's trying to connect it and understand it to stuff on him. And again, this is like super duper, oh my god, let's be besties and have matching friendship bracelets. That's not this, by any stretch of the imagination. But the sheer fact of the matter, the sheer indicator that a Black Templar is willing to talk about this, to understand this. Yes, it's probably for the wrong reasons, but you gotta understand, in the Imperium, ignorance is a good thing. Understanding is evil. Blessed be the mind too small to doubt. That is a canonical phrase from the Imperial Church. Understanding is wrong, is evil. You don't need to understand it, you just kill it. You hit it with sharp thing until it dies. Simple as. That is the Imperium. That is the Black Templars. But here we have the Black Templars actually talking about this, discussing this, and trying to understand it. And yes, in the end, they're going to respond to it in the typical Imperium way. Oh my god, foul Xenos necromancy, be gone, thought. They're still the Black Templars, yeah?
But the fact that they're even willing to engage in this is so incredibly important. As the book goes on, eventually they fight to stop Telok, and eventually they do. Spoilers for the book, by the way, in case you hadn't already figured. But during this time, Tana, the leader of the Black Templars, and the Wraith Guard known as the Ghostwalker end up forming a type of odd friendship. It's not really a friendship, it's more like a mutual respect, which for the Black Templars is mental. But they have funny little moments. One moment they're talking to each other and they're like, "Hey, you're a lot bigger than the folks I fight with." This is Tana saying this. And then the Ghostwalker was like, "What, you afraid I'm going to hit you?" And he's like, "Nah, don't worry, trust me, when I hit you, it's going to be on purpose." And Tana's like, "Yeah, likewise, when I hit you too, I'm going to make sure to go for that dome." He's like, "I'd like to see you try, me too." It's funny. It's like, they don't really like each other, but like, they're kind of ignoring the fact that they don't like each other to like talk shit to each other. It's weird. It's really weird, but I love it. And, you know, that begs the question. Could these guys actually like be friends? And people always say, "Oh no, it could never be. It could never be. The Imperium would always be against Xenos." But you gotta understand. Yes, Biggie had a murder Xenos policy. But that's only because a bunch of Xenos had fucked up human beings for the longest time that he knew that most Xenos in the galaxy were bad bullshit. A la the Orcs, Nids, Necrons, etc. But the Emperor also understood that some Xenos, a la the Eldar, could be traded with. It would be better to have an alliance with them, or at least a non-aggression pact, to make peace with them than to fight them. We actually know that some Biggie's plans included not genociding all the aliens because he knew the Imperium could not do that. It would be a recipe for disaster. As dumb as he was, he understood that at least. So he ended up being like, "Hey, let's not do this." And we see that time and time again, humanity and the Eldar, they have these pseudo mini alliances here and there, and it works. It works. But then, could they ever be more than that? Could it ever be more than allies of convenience? Could Eldar and humans ever have a mutual respect for one another? One race sees the other as illegitimate, irrational, illiterate idiots, children, less than children, base forms playing at a game they have no right to be in. And the other sees them as being these terrible monstrosities, these abominations of flesh made manifest. These failed creatures who had the galaxy at their fingertips and in their hubris, in their avarice, in their greed, destroyed it. Their time is now long over. It is now our time to rise and to reclaim the mantle. Could they ever have anything that could be resembling respect? And the answer to that is yes, because leading up towards the end of the book, the Black Templars and the Ghostwalker have to hold a bridge and they're being assaulted by a bunch of these creatures. And it's unknown what exactly these creatures are, but they're sort of four-legged hound beasts. And it's a few Black Templars and a Ghostwalker against this mass. But the Ghostwalker then makes a decision that would surprise each and every one of us. And it goes to show just how odd this book is. And how even in the grim darkness of the far future, surprise can still happen. Taken from Warhammer 40k, Gods of Mars. The damage done to its legs had robbed the Wraith Warrior of its speed and grace. Beside Yale, Kotov's Skitarii were hacking an entrance into the structure ahead through a shuttered door of consecrated steel. Tanner glanced over his shoulder, searching for signs of pursuit. Esau saw him and said, "You think the adept killed them?" "Doubtful," replied Tanner. "I laid enough mortal wounds over those beasts that they should have been destroyed a dozen times over. If they can survive that, they will survive Mago Pelavek's cantrip." "Those beasts are tough," agreed Vada. "I only ever fought one foe that could survive the kill strikes I favored them with." Tanner nodded. "Thanatos?" "Aye, the silver-skinned devils that kept coming back, no matter how hard I hit them, or how many mass reactives took them apart." "Is that what these are?" asked Esau. "No," said Uldenish Ghostwalker, his voice no longer deep and resonant, but thin and distant. "These things are not servants of the Ygnir.
They were wrought by living hands, and given the power to undo mortal wounds by Telok's mad sorceries. But you are correct. They will be back. As if to underscore the Wraith Warrior's words, the hounds burst from the tower. Some stood on their hind legs, others hunched over on all fours as they searched for their prey. Even a cursory glance told Tana that the damage he and his brothers had inflicted was entirely absent. The beast saw them crossing the bridge and sprinted after them, bounding closer with howling appetite. Sparks flew from the hooked claws on the mesh grill of the bridge deck.
"Templars, stand to!"
shouted Tana. "No," said Ghostwalker, standing athwart the bridge. The curved bone blade snapped from his gauntlet. "This is where I will fight, as Tora Velgrave's song did at Hellabor." Tana guessed what the giant warrior intended, and said, "Tell me one thing, Ghostwalker. Did Tora Velgrave's song live?" The Wraith Lord turned its emerald skull towards him, and Tana saw through the awful wound torn there that the smooth gemstone within was cracked. Its light was fading. "Tora Velgrave's song was a doom seeker," said Ghostwalker. "What does that mean?" "That he had walked the Wraith path for many lifetimes, more than you or I will ever know," said Ghostwalker. "Perhaps too many." Tana understood. "On Armageddon, I met a warrior of the Blood Angels whose duty was to hear the final words of those whose death was upon them. It was his burden to end their suffering. But he spoke of peace those lost souls sometimes knew when he told them that death had brought an end to their duty." Tana, Vada, and Isur raised their swords in salute. "Die well, Ghostwalker," said Tana. "Run," advised the Wraith Warrior. Uldanesh turned from the withdrawing Monkai, so sick that their leader actually believed he understood the true depth of what was to be lost here. Hadn't the human heard what Uldanesh said earlier? His body had died long ago, but his devotion to the Swordwind had seen his spirit preserved within the ghost lattice of the Wraith Lord's Spirit Stone. A Spirit Stone now split to its heart, and releasing that which kept it hidden from an ancient and hungry god. This was the fear that lurked at the heart of the Eldar race, from artist to exarch. The prospect of she who thirsts devouring and tormenting their spirit for all eternity filled even the stoutest heart with unreasoning horror. Who could have ever thought that he would embrace such a fate for the Monkai? Uldanesh clung to his wounded wraith body with every fiber of his determination. Already, he could hear cruel laughter pressing in around him. The monstrous hunger for dark power that would swallow his soul and not even notice. The Tindalosi were almost upon him as he took position at the exact center of the bridge. A Wraith Lord did not see as mortals saw. Wraith sight perceived the world in half-glimpsed dreams and nightmares, each redolent with ghostly emotions and shimmering hues. Without a Farseer's guiding light, it was difficult to sort real from unreal. The Eldar were ghost forms, concealed from she who thirsts by their spirit stones. But each Monkai was a plume of blood-red radiance, a being with unlimited capacity for violence. Beliana was already within the building behind him, and Uldanesh felt a sudden fear at the prospect of his people entering that dread space. Something terrible lurked beneath it, something that reeked of unending pain in a world suffering. Uldanesh wanted to warn them of the danger, but the Tildanosi were upon him. Like the Monkai, they were radiant things, phosphor bright and feral in their lust for violence. That they were intelligent was beyond question. Uldanesh had felt their twisted malevolence as soon as they entered the tower. What lurked within them were artificial minds so monstrous, so psychotic, that it begged belief that any sentient race would risk creating them. It saw the leader beast immediately, a patchwork of evil and insatiable hunger that left blistered negative impressions upon his wraith sight. Scratches of dark radiance flickered in the thing's smoking eye lenses, and its oversized jaw drooled lightning from blood-stained fangs. They came at Ghostwalker 5 abreast. He charged towards them with long, loping strides. He stepped down, carving the first through the spine with his wraith blade. Sensing weakness, one went for his legs, another for his skull. He cut the first almost in two with his gauntlet weapon. The second impaled itself on his blade. Another seized his gauntlet in its jaws and swung itself wide, using its mass to drag him with it. The last beast gripped the veins flaring from his shoulders and wrenched in the opposite direction. Ghostwalker loosed a bray of ancient pain as the vanish shattered like porcelain. He brought his blade back, shearing the legs from the beast biting his other arm. With that arm free, he swung from the hip and pummeled his fist into the monstrous hunter, clawing his side apart. The impact buckled its midsection inwards, almost snapping in two. It screeched a machine-like howl and landed hard on the parapet of the bridge. Uldanesh leaned back and kicked it over. The beast whose spine had carved unfolded from its hurt, fresh plates already extruding from some internal void. Green lights danced over the new steel. Uldanesh sent a threading pulse of laser fire through its eyes. They blew out in a screaming howl of hostile static. Two of the beasts tried to push past him. He stepped back and kicked one in the ribs, almost flattening it against the iron girder parapet. Uldanesh spun on his heel and pinned the other to the plated deck of the bridge with his wraith blade. The leader beast crashed into him. They rolled. Uldanesh's fist slammed into its side. Its wide mouth snapped shut on his skull, ripping out plate-sized shards of wraith bone. His blade scored deep cuts in its spinal ridges. Its hooked limbs ripped into his chest and broke his armor into long strips of wraith bone. They broke apart. Uldanesh rolled to his feet and staggered as his right leg finally gave out. Psychoactive connective tissue ground like broken glass in the joint. No amount of will could force it to bear his weight. The Tindaloshi faced him. He was a wounded giant. They, mechanized assassins that renewed themselves with each passing second. Dragging himself back along the bridge deck on one knee, Uldanesh heard himself upright. The spectral vista of his wraith sight was fading, yet the scratched outlines of the Tenosis remained stark and black. The sound of cruel laughter was closer now, like one of the Eldar Yeneas coming to savor its victim's degradation. Now was the moment. "Come, hounds of Morahig," he said. "We die together!" Uldanesh extended his left arm and cut through the thick suspension cables with a sawing blast of high-energy laser pulses. At the same instant, his wraith blade sliced up through the entwined knot of cables at his shoulder. The deck buckled as the bridge's cardinal supports were removed at a stroke. The Tenlosi saw the danger and surged past him, but it was already too late. With a scream of tearing metal, the bridge snapped in two, swirling the combatants into the explosively toxic clouds venting from the base of the tower. The Tenlosi howled as they fell, their metal hides blistering in the caustic fog. Uldanesh Ghostwalker made no sound at all. His soul had already been claimed. And with that, So ends the tale of Uldenish Ghostwalker. So a little bit of a PSA before I conclude here. This is a super rush analysis. This is not an analysis of this book like I normally do. This is just an analysis of one scene because I really love it. Go and read Gods of Mars. The final book is a quality bit into it. The trilogy is a little slow, but if you like the Mechanicus, if you like slow builds, if you like, a lot of good detailed and a lot of nice little niches, like small factions and stuff, this is a quality read. Highly recommend, 10 out of 10. But now back to this point. Uldenish's soul stone was cracked, meaning that Slaanesh gets his soul for all eternity, pure and simple. Yet, knowing this, he still stood and sacrificed himself for the Monkai, for the Black Templars. Now you could just look at this surface level. Now some would argue I'm going to look into this too much, but I like the idea that it didn't matter that these were just Monkai to him. These were warriors, and he had a duty to his Exarch and to his Farseer, and those warriors were a part of that duty. So he sacrificed himself. And yeah, he kind of bitched about it a little bit, but in the end, he was a warrior, dying and screaming curses. Much like the Black Templars. Maybe the Black Templars didn't know exactly what he did, but I think that makes it better rather than worse. They didn't know the sacrifice he made, because to them, a warrior sacrificing his life in the name of duty, that was all that there is to it. It didn't matter who, what, when, where, or why. What mattered was that in this moment, in this rare instance, human and Eldar alike, there were only warriors doing their duty. And in the final moment, there was a moment of respect between them. Regardless of how brief, regardless of how small, and regardless of how much it truly meant, it did exist. And to me, that is just incredibly important. And it shows something very unique about 40k. In the grim darkness of the far future, there is only war. 40k is not meant to be a nice, hopeful, good setting. It's meant to be bullshit, it's meant to suck, and it's meant to be the worst. That's what it's meant to be. But we see that even in a place like 40k, the world is like that because of the choices made by the people in it. 40k was never destined to always be evil and bullshit. It's evil and bullshit because the people within it make choices that lead to that outcome. And here we see that in choices that the people made, granted it wasn't by their choice, they were kind of forced into the situation, but they still chose to interact with one another. We see a Black Templar and an Eldar Wraith Lord having a moment of mutual respect. The fact that that happened is considered impossible by so many, but it goes to show that in 40k, humans are still humans. And the world of Warhammer 40k is not all that different from the world of today. For oftentimes we are blinded by hatred, and sometimes all that it takes is for us to be dragged kicking and screaming, but to eventually consider the other party. And we see that at the very least, they may be worthy of some respect. But yeah, ladies and gentlemen, thanks so very much for watching. I'm so sorry about this book. This is not a review of the book or a detailed thing of the book. I barely talked about the book. I just want to talk about this super cool thing because it really tickled me the right way. I still can't believe this was a Black Templar asking those questions. It's mad. But ladies and gentlemen, thanks so much for watching. Let me know down below, what do you guys think? And I love and appreciate each and every one of you. And a special awesome big shout out to our members and Patreons. Shout out to my lieutenant tier members, Mr. Eddie V3 and Miss Majora of the Void. Shout out to my sergeant tier members, Mr. Damiak, Mr. Andy McGee, Mr. Bowen, Mr. Sean IRL7, Mr. Matthew Merrill, Mr. Sergeant Cossack, 68W173D, and Mr. That Guy. Shout out to my corporal tier members, Mr. Tremail the Math Kitty, Lord Rosarius, Tech Priest Toaster, Mr. Bowen, Shauna Smithers, The Gentle Salamander, The Wench of Warhammer, Major Doshinect, Edward King, and Mr. Overanalyze This. And finally, but absolutely not least, shout out to my private tier members, Mr. Thomas Moslons, Mr. Ivan_SBW, Mr. Monkey Man, Mr. Michael Aeda, Mr. Diego Castro, Mr. Portus Unum, Mr. CMD Nay, Mr. Eric Massaro, Mr. Dar Marek, Mr. Ken_Sakura333, Mr. Adrian Von Furen, Mr. Morally Bankrupt, Mr. Matthew Peter, Mr. Joshly1320, Mr. Adrex X1, Mr. Ethan Elam U71, Mr. Kiri Khan, Mr. Malpace-XB1XE, and Mr. Robert Makorovich.
Thank you. Thank you. I love you. I appreciate each and every one of you. Someday with our memberships get a bunch of awesome benefits behind the scenes stuff, early access to these videos, but you get to help out your boy. But remember, this will always be free. So whether you give your boy $1 or not, I will love you just the same. Mwah! But ladies and gentlemen, I've been the General Bradley 101. You've been beautiful, awesome, and amazing people. Thanks so very much for watching. And we shall say hello there, boys and girls. And I will catch y'all next time. Dismiss, Rangers. I mean, at the end of the day, if that don't convince the Imperium to like them, just give them some Eldar booty cheeks, baby. That shit will convince me up real quick. Yes, sir.